because that's important. You're going to need them.
Teens are well aware of that for sure.
Stay with Fox 35, our continuing coverage when we come back.
Stay with us.
All right, so as you can hear, we are able to tap into our Fox 13 Tampa team and our Fox 35 Orlando team as we cover this breaking news here. The eye wall of Hurricane Ian beginning to move onshore in the area of Sanibel Island, Florida. That's Fort Myers, Cape Coral there in southwest Florida. As of the 11 a.m. update, this is a Category 4 storm with winds of 155 miles per hour moving north-northeast at 9 miles per hour. That hurricane warning is Florida. As I mentioned, our Fox 13 Tampa team also covering this with reporters that are scattered across the state. So I do want to listen in live, raw, and unfiltered to their coverage here on Live Now from Fox.
Area right in the corner of the county, but these are very quick moving. So even though it's not in necessarily a populated area at the moment, really within the next 5-10 minutes, this could easily start to work its way a bit further to the north and west and work its way into some population. And really not a big signature on the radar, but it does look like we do have something developing here. And I'll go ahead and I'll put this into motion so you kind of get an idea of just how quickly these are moving.
You know, we were talking about this earlier, and the fact that this happens quite often with landfalling storms. And I know Broward County had many tornado warnings yesterday, but sometimes they happen so quick. They spin up and they spin down so fast, and they're not your typical tornadoes, you know, not like you would see out in the Midwest.
No, they're not. But since these rain bands are moving so quickly, even though it might be just a quick spin up, they can cover a large amount of distance in a very short period of time. That's why you see this this polygon extended out so far all the way up towards Wauchula. So if you're in this area, you've already got the winds, but you do want to go inside that interior location, stay away from any windows. You want to go into that safe place because we do have this tornado warning now in Highlands County, but this also extends up into Hardee County as well. That goes until 12:15, so we're looking another 30-31 minutes now. And you see this very intense cell where we just continue to see these rain bands working their way through. So first tornado warning of this storm in our viewing area, but this is more than likely not going to be the last, unfortunately.
Not even close, because you know as this thing moves on shore, and really Ian is close to making landfall probably in the next few hours or so. You're going to get more and more of these, and typically they're on that eastern side, that northeastern side, when you're introducing the friction of the land and that spin and the way it's wrapping around, they can pop up. And as far as, yes, they can do some damage. Now, we're not talking about your big Midwest tornadoes, the kind that we're like, oh my goodness. These are quick little spin-ups, but again, they touch the ground, they can cause a little bit of damage. But, you know, you mentioned at the beginning of this warning, Jim, that right now it's in a very rural area. However, Sulphur Springs and the Wauchula area are at the end of that polygon. So they're toward the closer to 12-15 time frame.
Yeah, if it holds together. And, you know, we talk about it, on that right-hand side of the storm as it is approaching the coastline, that's where you see the most favored location for tornadoes. But you notice what's going on that right-hand side right now. There's not a whole lot of activity. I mean, we do have some of these isolated supercells in there, but most of that activity is on that northeastern side, northwestern side, so basically in our area. So for the possibility of tornadoes as we continue through the afternoon into this evening along that eye wall as well. We already have that extreme wind warning as this eye wall is making its way on shore. But you look at some of these cells, these kinds of cells here, and I know they are not in our area right now, but these are racing up to the north and west, and those are the types of cells that can quickly spin up one of those tornadoes and as they move into our area. But we're already starting to see more and more of these stronger isolated cells embedded in here that have that potential, not seeing any rotation yet, but they all have that potential as we go through the coming hours of spinning up that quick tornado. But already we're starting to see we have this tornado warning. We'll flip back over and look at the velocities.
I'm glad you circled those little cells off to the south and the east, because, for instance, Lake Placid, Highlands County, right along Highway 27, you're not in this tornado warning. It is off to your west. But Jim was just circling on the radar a little bit ago some other particular cells that are coming in from your south southeast. You see them over Lake Okeechobee now. So as those pinwheel back to the northwest, any one of those could spin up a quick tornado, drop it down, bring it back up. They're not long-lived, but the point is that they can cause damage as they get down to the ground. So we try to stay ahead of them, and that's what we're trying to do right now, stay ahead of it and let you know that, hey, Lake Placid, hey, Sebring, you're not in this tornado warning. However, there are some cells off to your southeast that are pinwheeling around, and any one of those could, again, cause a tornado to drop down.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it's not going to take long. Go ahead and put the radar in motion, and you just see how quickly these are rotating around. I mean, these could, you know, in reality, these could be up into Highlands County in probably about the next 20, 25 minutes, moving really a large distance. At this point, not seeing that rotation, but there's going to continue to be that risk that we see more of these really over the coming hours. Right as this is making landfall, you start to get that friction of all the very strong winds along the coastline and moving on shore. And this is when you start to see more and more of that rotation with these, because just the land interactions with this. But, you know, one of the good points of anything at this point, I'll go ahead and I'll stop the radar and you look back at the velocities and over the past scan or two, really not seeing it intensify. We were watching some of the cells that were producing tornadoes down towards Miami last night, and we were seeing that very definite idea that we were seeing debris being lofted, and you're just not seeing that in this right now. You're not seeing any signs of any debris. You're looking at the rotation with this, and you have to look closely. I'll zoom in here and I'll circle the area that we're talking about.
Let me just, for those of you who just tuned in, because I know what's happening with our, with our coverage here. I know you're coming in, you're going out, you're coming in, you're going out. So if you're just tuning in this second, we have a tornado warning out. It's the first one of the day. It will not be the last one until 12:15. And this is really for eastern, southeastern Hardy County, the place that Jim is circling right there, and extreme northeastern DeSoto County. Granted, a very rural area. However, it's heading toward Highway 17 and Zolfo Springs and Wauchula.
Yeah, and what you look at here, there's a couple of different ways we can look at these storm winds, and just because the winds are so strong in the atmosphere already, it becomes a little more difficult to sometimes pick out the tornadoes, but this is the area, and you saw as the radar updated there, we are basically looking at these winds 72 miles an hour inside of this cell. So we flip over and try and kind of pinpoint what we're doing here is we're subtracting out the movement when we look at it this way. So we're trying to just focus in on just the area.
Oh boy, Jim's doing math now, everybody. Jim's subtracting, he's doing math.
Yeah, hopefully we're subtracting and not adding at this point.
No, you're right.
But this is the area that you're looking at, and you can see how quickly it's moved. Remember, this warning started right here, and since we've been talking about this, this has already moved a fair distance.
If you are just joining us on Live Now from Fox, we are nearing the noon hour on the East Coast, getting close to 9 a.m. over on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and I'm here for the next several hours to bring you everything about Hurricane Ian as we see the eye wall of that very powerful storm beginning to move onshore in Florida. We're talking landfall around Sanibel Island, which is close to Fort Myers there in Lee County, Florida, the southwestern portion of the state. We have been tapping into our Fox 13 Tampa team coverage as well as our Fox 35 Orlando team. Right now, I want to go over to Fox 35 Orlando as we do wait for an update coming in shortly from the National Hurricane Center.
And our transfer stations are scheduled to close to the public today at noon, and they will remain closed through Friday. And with that, let me just also share some other information with you. We know that we have a number of people who have been evacuating from surrounding counties and throughout the state. They have been coming. We do have capacity within our hotels. At this point, Visit Orlando estimates that the occupancy rate is at 85% within our community. So we still have 15% capacity within our local hotels. In terms of the homeless, I get asked questions about, are we taking care of the homeless? Yes, we are. We're working very closely with our homeless shelters. We're working closely with the Homeless Services Network to ensure that our homeless individuals are housed. I'm told that we have approximately 60 individuals now in non-congregate housing within Orange County as well. And with that, I'm going to ask Sheriff Mina to come forward and to provide some comments to you. And then after that, I will for our Spanish-speaking media, I'm going to ask some of our staff to come up and assist us in providing some additional details. With that, Sheriff Mina.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon. So I just want to reiterate, the Orange County Sheriff's Office is prepared to keep everyone safe before, during, and after the storm. We have more than double the amount of personnel that we usually have out there on the streets to keep everyone safe. I do want everyone to heed the warnings that we're giving you, that after 2 o'clock, we should not be on the roadways unless we're essential personnel. And for those of us who are staying in our homes, to make sure we shelter in place, the Orange County Sheriff's Office is assisting with the voluntary evacuation of some of those mobile home parks that are vulnerable to flooding and other damage. So we will be out there. Again, as I stated, we have more than double the personnel that we usually have out there as far as law enforcement is concerned. So if you see suspicious activity, if you see people doing things they're not supposed to be doing, committing crimes, call the Sheriff's Office, call 911, and those people will be caught and taken to jail, and they will face harsher penalties because of the state of emergency. And again, if anyone needs anything from the Orange County Sheriff's Office or law enforcement, please don't hesitate to reach out, call 911 or our non-emergency number. And we're also working with our other municipal police departments to ensure that we're all on the same page as far as the safety of this community. Our deputies, carry generators and chainsaws for the flooding aspect. We have many watercraft, many vehicles that can go through water for rescues or anything like that. Of course, we have our aviation, our helicopter assets as well for after the storm. And remember, after the storm, that people need to avoid down power lines and standing water. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Before I ask the staff to come up, we also do have several of our Orange County commissioners who have joined us today. They've been working in their respective districts to ensure that residents are safe. We have Commissioner Myra Uribe and Commissioner Maribel Gomez-Cordero who joined us as well. But also at this point, I'm going to ask some of our staff to come up. I call them the three amigos who are going to be coming up at this point. First, familiar face to you, Dr. Raul Pino, who is going to come up, and he's going to share with you some information about our shelters and what we're doing with those operations. Then we're going to have our utilities director who is going to come up, Mr. Ed Torres. He'll talk to you about some of the efforts that we are doing in Spanish with our utilities. And then we'll have from our Public Works Department, Ms. Diana Almodovar, who will provide some information in Spanish about what we're doing with our public works operations. And so with that, Dr. Raul Pino.
Gracias, alcalde. Buenos días. Esta es una información con respecto a los shelters, los albergues de emergencia que el condado ha activado para su seguridad y protección. Hay 5 shelters abiertos durante esta parte del huracán para la población en general y 3 de ellos, Paca High School, Oak Ridge High School.
Good morning, everyone. If you are just watching us here on Live Now from Fox, you are listening to an update out of Orange County, Florida, so over in the Orlando area, as they do provide a little bit more information as preparations are underway for the arrival of Hurricane Ian, the eye wall of the storm beginning to move onshore in Florida. As of the 11 a.m. update, so less than an hour ago, the storm was a Category 4 with winds of 155 miles per hour moving north-northeast at 9 miles per hour. I do want to take you to a live view of our radar here where you can actually see the current view. Take a look at that eye wall there. That is about to move onshore in the state of Florida. We are waiting for an update here from the National Hurricane Center. They are expected to speak here in the coming minutes. They said it would start around 11:50 a.m. Eastern time. It's now 11:56, so it is likely they will start very soon. We do have a feed that is connected here that we are watching to see when it does happen. We are also sticking with our Fox 35 Orlando team. They are in their full forecast where they will take a closer look at the path of the storm, the strength, and where it is headed. So I do want to listen in raw and unfiltered right now on LiveNOW from Fox.
Storm surge there. So we are already over that. And like we mentioned, we haven't officially made landfall yet.
Well, I'll tell you, we talk about the local impacts, right? So as that circulation gets closer and closer to us here in Central Florida, we're going to see all the local impacts unfolding here. We've already recorded wind gusts in South Lake County, points south of that, measuring into low mid 40s. So we're tropical storm force.
Exactly. We talked about all week long, we were showing you the wind field, and it was the yellow color, that outer circle. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. And then as the hurricane does move on shore and get closer, that's when those winds really start to ramp up. So over the next several hours, throughout the overnight hours tonight.
All right, so the most critical thing we got to tell you about, obviously, we assess the local impacts. Want to share the latest track from NHC. Current winds at 155 miles per hour. You can see here as it projects onto land, down to a 3, and then steadily moving toward Orlando. So it looks like we got a new advisory in here of some sort here, Allison. So folks at home, bear with us on approach to Orlando. Winds at 70, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we'll continue moving off eastbound off the east side of the state, right around Volusia County, where there are now active hurricane warnings for Volusia and Brevard. Speaking of Volusia, I want to tell you about Oak Hill down the Edgewater over to Smyrna Yacht Club. Generally around the South Causeway at NSB, you can see this big area moving up into your particular spot there on the map. So I want you to stay weather aware there at any time. We could see some rotation as these rain bands project in, could produce a brief tornado. That has been a legacy of these rain bands. Our Fox model showing the track in line with NHC, doing a fine, fantastic job as we track this into the Carolinas longer term on our exclusive Fox model. So we do have some active tornado warnings now across DeSoto County and Hardee County, also Highlands County, southwest of the viewing area. Latest on Ian, and of course our tornado watch information that will go in through 5 p.m. this afternoon. That could get expanded and extended as the information comes in. The atmosphere now is in a state of flux. It's turning over to one that is featuring broad rotation across the region. So at any time, these rain bands moving through late tonight into early Thursday morning can produce a brief isolated tornado. Some of them can become quite strong. For more live tracking, let's head over to Allison briefly here in the Storm Center. Allie, bring us up to date there on radar.
Well, Jamie, like you mentioned, we have one active tornado warning at the moment, but those outer rain bands still moving in. See them rotate at any moment. So it's very important to make sure that you are staying with us for the absolute latest. And you can see that center eye wall is inching closer to southwest Florida right now. So Jamie will.
All right, it appears we did lose our feed there with Fox 35 Orlando. We will take you back there in the next little bit, but I do want to take you over to a live briefing underway by the National Hurricane Center. Let's listen in raw and unfiltered on LiveNOW from Fox.
Johns River. If you live on the St. Johns River, you need to be thinking about taking action as well. Taking a bigger picture out. Warnings now all up and down so again, Northeast Florida, St. Johns River, all of coastal Georgia, and much of coastal South Carolina. And we'll explain why here in a second with the cone graphic. It's a little hard to see. But if you see here, the orange denotes the size. We talked about how the storm would grow as it moved into the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and it has. So it's not only strong, it's big, and that's the worst of the two. And you can see as those strong winds sweep across the Florida Peninsula, the blue area is tropical storm warnings, but virtually almost the entire state of Florida under some type of warning, save the extreme western panhandle. And then the storm moves slowly, I think the word crawls might be better, across the central Florida Peninsula, slowly weakens as it gets inland, but then emerges back over the Atlantic, and then turns back up into either Georgia or South Carolina. And then again, you've got all that strong onshore wind to the east. We talked about the onshore wind, so think about the surge risk here. There's a reason it's called the low country. It's flat and there's not much elevation there. So even a little bit of storm surge in these areas could be life-threatening. You can also see various, there's a hurricane watch also issued for that same portion. Watch is conditions are possible within the next couple of days. I personally like this graphic to kind of help unpack everything, because at some point there's so many warnings it's probably disorienting. The red is hurricane warnings or damaging wind potential. And you can see as Ian cuts across the state, just basically slices across the state, a large swath of damaging winds, down trees, down power lines, power outages, and roads that won't be passable for a long time. So again, get where you're gonna be, unless you're way down here. If you're inland around Tampa, I-4, get Orlando, get where you're gonna be and plan to be there for several days. And then you can see the various tropical storm warnings up along the southeast coast of coastal Georgia and South Carolina. I don't want to diminish the rain either. A lot of, everyone focuses on the so, as we talked earlier in this segment, but a line or band of very heavy rain is going to develop along and to the north of the track where Ian cuts across the state. These are precipitation estimates or precipitation forecasts. The red is greater than 10 inches. The purple is 15. So basically a wide swath of 10 to 15 inches of rain. If you're not familiar with those numbers, that is a lot of rain, and we are at the tail end of the wet season or the rainy season here in Florida. So the flood risk potential is high. And that's basically what I would take away from this graphic. Anything that is in this pink area or high, which is absolutely the I-4 corridor, has a high risk of very heavy rain that will produce flooding, flash flooding, impassable roads. I'm telling you, you just need to get where you're going to stay and plan to be there. We lose so many people after a storm because they get out and wander about. They drive into flooded roads. Power lines might be down. They just encounter. I know you want to see what happened. I know you want to see if your house, your neighborhood is okay, but please stay inside until conditions allow you to safely move about. And then also I want to note here, and notice the flood risk in coastal Georgia, South Carolina, Savannah, and Charleston. You're now at a moderate risk. And I want to explain this because since you're several days out from the onset, a moderate risk that far out in time is actually really significant. And if things continue to unfold, you could be placed in a high risk at a later time. So don't be too fixated that this purple here is only in Florida. I'm really concerned about the flood risk because also this will be co-located with the storm surge that we talked about earlier. Remember the onshore storm surge, and then you have the rain. The rain tries to flow into the river tries to flow into the sea, and it all just converges and creates a big flood mess and potential here in South Carolina. We'll be with you all day to provide updates as needed. For those of you outside of the impacted area, please be thinking about the people in this impacted area and be ready to lend them support, lend them help in the next couple of days. That is it from the National Hurricane Center.
That was the latest update provided by the National Hurricane Center. They started that around noon, so we did take that live for you. This is as the eye wall of Hurricane Ian is beginning to move onshore in the state of Florida, around the area of Sanibel Island, Florida, so Fort Myers, Lee County area, that is in southwest Florida. It is 12:06 on the East Coast and 9:06 on the West Coast. If you are just joining us here on Live Now from Fox, I do want to go over the latest about Hurricane Ian as we do track it very, very closely. So breaking right now, the eye wall of Hurricane Ian starting to move onshore in that Lee County area. The National Hurricane Center saying there is catastrophic storm surge up to possibly 15 feet, along with destructive waves. We know that Hurricane Ian did rapidly intensify over the last several hours, becoming a powerful Category 4 storm with winds of 155 miles per hour. That is just 2 miles per hour shy of a Category 5 storm, which is the highest classification for a hurricane. As of that latest advisory at 11 a.m. Eastern, Ian continues to move north-northeast at 9 miles per hour and was located about 60 miles or so west of Naples, Florida. We know the hurricane force winds do extend for a diameter of 40 miles, and tropical storm force winds extend for a diameter of about 175 miles. We are talking about a massive storm that you are looking at live here on our XRAD system. We have been going out to our Fox 13 Tampa team and our Fox 35 Orlando team. We are watching the feeds very closely here. It looks like our Fox 13 Tampa team does have a crew out in the field right now, so I do want to take that for you, raw and unfiltered on Live Now from Fox.
Going to go ahead and just show you some of the gusts that we're seeing right now. It is kind of difficult to see the rain, but the rain is blowing sideways across the street at a Longhorn there. You can see the American flag whipping, just an enormous amount of wind coming through the area right now. Like I said earlier, just a couple of hours ago, the wind gusts were not this strong. You can see right here, there's a tree where the branches have been snapped. There are limbs down on the ground. And I want to show you, as you see that, just some of the video that we did go out and capture this morning. We did go drive down to Osprey, and this is a transformer that we saw outside of a mobile home park. Right as we arrived, we heard the pop, and as soon as we turned around, we saw that it was on fire. It looked like a tree branch had hit it, and it went up in smoke. As we went through the area, the rain just continues to fill the potholes that are out here, and the wind continues just to knock out down some of the branches, scattering debris through the area. We drove through a mobile home park and we saw some damage there as well. One of the roofs already being ripped off. And this is really why officials have said if you are in one of those evacuation zones, there's not much time to get out and get to a safe place at this point in time. And here at the hotel, we've talked to several people that were not going to take any chances, including one woman and her mother who are just a few doors down from us. Go ahead and listen into what they had to say.
I pray that we have a mobile home left and that everybody's safe.
Same thing, yep, that everybody's safe. And, you know, it's one thing to wish that it goes somewhere else, but then somebody else is impacted as well. So I wish it would just blow it into the ocean and go away so everybody is okay in the next few days.
That is what most of us are wishing at this point, but we know that the reality is that Hurricane Ian is here and is continuing to pack a punch. Now, again, with those mobile home parks, this is some of the damage I believe that you should be seeing right here. And that is why mobile home parks are one of the ones that are always evacuated immediately because of that debris that can fly off of the manufactured homes. And again, just a live picture back out here again. You can see the wind gusts still coming through. The rain is falling steadily, and now people are just kind of holding out, kind of hunkered down, as we would all say here at this Best Western, waiting to see what will happen next as each hour continues to go by. Again, another one of those gusts, and like I said, ever since this morning, the gusts have continued to increase in their strength, and we imagine that they're only going to get stronger. We'll be out here continuing to monitor what we're seeing. We'll be safe and sound right here. We're not going back out on the road, and that's another thing. We did see some cars going out there. Not a smart thing to do, especially at this point in time. Linda Cervani, back to you.
No, and that kind of leads into my question, Kim. In all the video that you just showed us, I saw a lot of some damage, but I didn't see people. So you think most of the people in that area are heeding the warning, right? And they've found where they want to be and they're staying now?
It appears that that's so. In one of the mobile home parks, there were still cars. We saw people getting into their cars, hopefully leaving or going to somebody else's home. But I think really right now at this point in time, people are in their homes just kind of waiting out to see what will happen.
Well, that's good to hear because you can see the rain gusting behind you. You stay safe, Kim. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
You know, just to the north, the water in Johns Pass, it's getting rough at this point. Our photographers spotted a lot of dolphins. Can you see that? They were making their way through the pass. Really a compelling reminder. Obviously, it's not just humans weathering the storm. Wildlife is too. But with that in mind, FWC says that people should not try to rescue any animals during or after the storm. Just give the wildlife their space. We spoke with Captain Dylan Hubbard about what else he's seeing at Johns Pass.
Right now we're experiencing a super negative tide. Water is pouring out of Johns Pass at a really increased rate. It's really incredible to see how fast the water is moving out. And right now we've passed the time where we should see a slowdown of the tide or slack tide. So low tide was around 8:15. So we should see the water stop moving now and then start coming in. But it is still pouring out of Johns Pass. So it's a very unique look at extremely low water.
Now you look around here and you see the islands are just growing. Is it kind of eerie seeing all this stuff?
Yes, it's extremely eerie seeing this low water and so much sand being exposed above the water. And we saw this with Irma. This is very similar to what our area experienced during Irma. As that storm kind of approached Everglades City, made landfall and passed to our east side, we had negative tides and we could almost walk across Johns Pass. So we're not there yet. The water still has a long way to go to catch up to what we saw with Irma, but these east winds are only going to continue to get stronger, and then as it passes we get a north wind, and all of that is going to be dumping water out of the bay. So I still think we're going to be experiencing similar to what we saw with Irma, which is better than high water, let me tell you.
What have you guys done to prepare your stuff?
We've done a lot to prepare for this storm. Really, as the storm approached, we had all those emergency evacuations, and we were expecting, like I said, 10, 15 foot of surge. So we were expecting some severe high water. So we over-prepared, prepared for the worst and hoped for the best. And obviously, this isn't the best situation. People down south of us are going to be severely affected by a really major hurricane. But for Pinellas County, for our Tampa Bay area, this is kind of a best case scenario where we don't have that surge. We still got flooding rain and lots of wind and plenty of storms and tornado threats, but surge is the thing that destroys homes, businesses, and really takes a long time to recover from. And it looks like we've dodged a bullet as far as that's concerned.
With the water all going out, people are like, the beaching of the boats, is that an issue with the boats? Does that hurt the boats?
Yeah, so this is going to be a big issue, the negative low tides, because if boats aren't tied up properly and they're not being adjusted for that low tide, if a big boat's in the water and all the water's gone, if the lines aren't long enough, lines can start breaking, and you could have some issues with some boats tipping over, falling on their side, breaking up. So we are on the boat adjusting the lines as the water changes, and it will be really interesting later on this afternoon around 3, 4 o'clock. We're supposed to be a high tide. We're supposed to get a high tide. So that will be really telling this afternoon. If the water never comes back in, that high tide never recovers, we're going to see probably extremely low tide through this entire event.
Certainly some dramatic images that we're going to expect to see. Fox 13's Josh Cassio joins us live from Treasure Island this afternoon. Josh, it is looking windy.
Yeah, you know, earlier I heard Jim Weber say 60 miles an hour, I think, in Pinellas County, and I'll tell you what, we are feeling every mile per hour that Hurricane Ian can throw at us. The wind, I don't know if you can hear it, but the wind is just screaming, telling us to get out of here, but we are here to tell you exactly what is going on. If you can take a look behind me, you can see the trees blowing in the wind there. Also, the white caps on the water, it gives you an idea of just how strong the winds and the rain is blowing right now. It is pelting rain. It is sideways rain. One thing you may not be able to see, but right over this seawall, you can actually see sand and seagrass, and normally you wouldn't be able to. That shows you that Hurricane Ian is just sucking the water out of here, just like Captain Hubbard was talking about. And then to my right, excuse me, to my right, you can see these boats tied up, a giant sailboat there and some other boats over here. They are essentially sitting in the sand right now. At one point, it was even worse, but They are locked into the sand right now because there is just not as much water as there normally would be here on Treasure Island. Again, the wind, though, it is ripping through here. The rain, it is pelting. The good news is, as we drove through this area, we did not see many people, very few. So that is good news. People do seem to be heeding the warnings. Hopefully you're watching us from a safe location. As folks should know by now, here in Pinellas County, there are mandatory evacuations in zones A, B, and C. And then on the barrier islands where we are right now, you can get out here, but if you do, you have to show your credentials. You have to say that you are either a homeowner here, a contractor, or you have a good reason to be here. Otherwise, they will not let you on the barrier islands, and quite frankly, for good reason. What we're seeing again, huge wind gusts, sustained, whipping rain. It's getting hard to stand out here. Luckily, we are in a safe location. We've got cover. Again, most people have left, but certainly what we're seeing out here is very bad, and it's clearly going to get worse. We know conditions will deteriorate soon. So, yeah, folks out here are in for quite a storm. This is the beginning of it, and if it's going to get worse, boy, it's going to be a rough one. Back to you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can hear all the debris just kind of blowing around, pelting you. Be safe, and definitely windier than rainier at that point. Josh, we'll see you soon.
I'm not sure he heard you, but he certainly,
he heard the wind and the sand.
Right. Gave us a feel for what it's like outside there right now and why you shouldn't be outside. Right. He said I could barely stand.
Through Polk County, hitting between Lake Wells and Frostproof.
Right. So emergency management officials are telling people in low-lying areas, if you haven't already evacuated, do it now. But Fox 13's Ken Suarez is standing by at the Peace River Village with more. But Ken, I'm not even sure it's safe to get out now, is it?
Well, they say if it's a place that's close to you, it's a pretty good idea because a lot of people, for whatever reason, have decided to stay. We were here the other day, as a matter of fact, and we saw a lot more people. So some people have left, but a lot have decided to stay. There's a particular problem at this place and other places that are low-lying. Take a look behind me, and you see the rain is coming down, the wind is blustery. Even though we're a pretty good distance from Sarasota, where Kim is, or where Josh is on the beaches, it is really wet. Look here, it has been wet here forever and ever, because even a little bit of rain will certainly, make the ground here way too wet. So it's not absorbing. You look at over here and you see that there is a sewer line. It's taking some water out, doing a fair job. But can you imagine when Ian actually gets here? If you take a look over that way, Jeremy, point over there into the woods, you may be able to see a swamp. That is the Peace River, which is probably a quarter mile or so from here. It's actually been overflowing for quite a while, and that is the problem. This is not the only place in Polk County where we have low-lying areas. There are a lot of other places as well that flood just like this place. Now, as you've been hearing here on Fox 13, the problem is that it's been raining for a while and the ground just can't absorb any more water. So what are we getting now? Well, obviously more rain, and this is just the beginning. It's going to get a lot worse as Ian gets closer to Polk and moves through the Bay Area. That's why Polk emergency managers are making a last-ditch effort to try and convince people who live in low-lying areas just like this one to get out now.
Our ground is already saturated from rain that we've had in the last several weeks already. So now if we get 2 feet on top of that, there's just capacity issues with drainage, and water is going to fill up low-lying areas and come out of the Peace River out of its bank.
There are about 12.5 shelters open in Polk County right now. There are general ones for people who have special needs and people who have pets. So they're pretty much covering all the bases. Emergency managers say they're not getting as many people as expected for whatever reason, but the time to do it is now, because as time goes on, obviously it's going to become more and more difficult to get out and more dangerous to get out. As I said before, we were here the other day and we saw a lot more people here. So some people have left, but there are lots of cars here, and that means a lot of people are here. Emergency managers are saying, bad idea, don't think about it, just do it now. Back to you.
You're going to get out on the road, maybe check something like Waze, too, to see what the traffic situation is like.
Yeah.
All right. And thanks so much. All right, Jim, I know you're watching a lot. We saw Josh at Treasure Island. He was blowing around, and I know there was a tornado warning you were keeping an eye on.
Yeah, the tornado warning has since expired. I'm sure we're going to see more of these, but that eye wall, that is now starting to work its way on shore, and that is where you're going to find the strongest winds of this. This is down to our south. Look at Sky Tower radar right now, and you can see where this is working its way on shore fairly slowly right now. And remember, we're talking about a storm that will be slowing down as it works its way on shore and pushes through. But there you see it on Sky Tower radar, down towards Sanibel, working its way up towards Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte. This is also the area that we have that extreme wind warning. That goes until 2 o'clock this afternoon as that eye wall cycles on shore. Now remember, this is not landfall yet. Landfall is considered when the center passes over land, but you can see that is not far away at this point. The other thing you notice is we just continue to see a lot of lightning in and around that eye wall, which tells us this system is continuing to do everything it can to intensify, which is really always that worst case scenario to talk about a continuing system that just continues to intensify as it is making landfall. Basically, we are maximizing the amount of wind and power in this system when you have that intensifying storm. So Sarasota, really all the way through Sarasota up into Manatee County, you see these rain bands. They just continue to spiral around, and we see those oranges and reds and the yellows. That's where you're seeing the heaviest portions of this. That rain is basically going sideways at this point. We're seeing these winds in these bands, 50, 60 miles an hour. We've seen that even as far away as Pinellas County, southern Pinellas County, St. Petersburg, seeing these winds gusting close to 60 miles an hour as these bands continue to work their way through, and it's just going to continue. And then the rainfall on top of it, lighter amounts to our north up into Pasco, Hernando, and Citrus County, but still, you've got some pretty gusty winds up in that direction. In fact, you look at some of the wind gusts there, you see Punta Gorda right now, winds gusting to 67 miles an hour, Sarasota 60. Here in Tampa, we're seeing the winds gusting to 41. In St. Petersburg, along the coastline, you're seeing that wind gusting to 62 miles an hour, which is, at this point, notice the wind direction. It is pushing the water out of the bay. So we've been talking about that storm surge and pushing the water up the bay or out of the bay. With the storm passing to our south, we're actually pulling the water out of the bay. So to talk more about the storm surge, the position, and the track, I'm going to pass this over to Paul Delgado, where we've been watching these cameras, and it's just amazing to see what's happening in the bay right now.
I mean, visually, it's incredible. When you look at the, well, let me go back on this. That's the Brookdale Bayshore cam, and we got 73 degrees, and I was on the Bayshore earlier, and again, it's the northeast wind that is blowing obviously the water out of the bay. We said last night we're going to show you a video of the bay. I mean, it's spectacular to look at, and it gets a lot of social media interaction. But in the bottom line, what really is important is the power outages and the storm surge from the point of landfall south to me. We've seen water levels go up now down by Fort Myers.
85 miles per hour, 10 to 20 inches of rainfall, so flooding there, down trees, not out of the equation. And as we take a look now at Brevard County as well, again, we've ramped up from a tropical storm warning to a hurricane warning now. Winds there 40 to 50. Wind speeds on the gust will be at 75 miles per hour. Rainfall there in that range of 4 to 8 inches, but there could possibly be locally higher amounts. That's how it typically works, depending on where these rain bands set up, how much rain they do drop. Orange County hurricane warning in effect now till further notice. We've got winds there at 55 to 70, gust 20-inch rainfall maximum on the plus side of that for some. And lastly, I do want to take a look at Seminole County for those of you, and also Flagler County, as we show you those wind gusts at nearly 70 miles per hour. Again, we've got a tropical storm warning there as well. So again, I'm going to head over to Allison now with some live storm tracking. Fox 35 storm tracker radar. Allison, bring us up to date. Looks like some pretty heavy rain marching into Volusia, North Brevard at this time.
That's exactly right. So our Fox 35 storm tracker radar showing some of those outer rain bands making their way into our viewing area. You can see this is a loop over the last 30 minutes. Some lightning just offshore of Brevard County, likely going to be paralleling with coastal Volusia County, so something to keep in mind if you do live along the coast. But I do want to take you into some rainfall rates. We actually can see just how much rain is falling in a short amount of time, and you can see some rain right there. That is a video from Sanibel Island. Now that is a lot of rain. Again, a Category 4 major hurricane that is starting to make landfall in southwest Florida. For us here, our rainfall rates are anywhere from 2 to nearly 5 inches per hour. So with that That being said, a lot of rain, and these are the outer rain bands of Ian. More will be on the way as we head into the next several hours. Let's call it 36 to 48 there. But I do want to take you into our power outages map, and we are seeing a lot of people without power. Actually, just about a few minutes ago, we were seeing the Fort Myers area, Lee County, actually in the red with more than 100,000 folks without power. So that's something we're going to work out the details for you. But you know, as this system makes its way on shore, both Jamie and I have been scrolling through social media, looking at all of the videos and seeing those down power lines already. And like I mentioned, still haven't made landfall. So as soon as that comes on shore, even more rain and even strong winds.
Okay, so now we're dealing with a strong hurricane getting ready to make landfall here. Major, almost Category 5, right? Southwest Florida. So we talk about the impact again locally. I want to hammer those home. The next time you see Allison and I, we are going to take you kind of a round robin around town. Also giving you the lookout here on some of our area cameras as conditions deteriorate, giving you those eyes. I know a lot of you in your safe places now, but I want to let you know we are here live tracking, keeping you safe. Stay with us. Download the Fox 35 Storm Team Weather app because, as Allison showed, power outages are going to increase. And on our Fox 35 Storm Team Weather app, you can actually stream our coverage live on your mobile device. What you see right here can come across right on the app. So it's a great
charge your phones now.
Yeah, great detail there on the app for you guys. We'll send it back to you, Amy Ryan.
All right, thank you so much. And of course, keep it right here on Fox 35. We are going to have continuing coverage of Hurricane Ian. We're not leaving you.
And, you know, we've been looking while they were talking, Fort Myers seeing some major flooding. We're starting to see some of these images now. We'll let you know exactly what is in store as we move forward as well. We take a look, speaking at some of the flooding as well. This is Sanibel Island, I believe, where we're looking at some of this flooding. Numerous spots around where that eye wall is starting to come on shore. Seeing these kind of images for sure with very, very strong storm surge flooding the southwest Florida coast. Remember, the governor is going to speak at 1 o'clock. We're going to bring that to you live as we head toward that time.
Good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are joining us here. 1228 over on the East Coast and 928 on the West Coast. You are watching Live Now from Fox as we continue our extensive coverage of Hurricane Ian. We've been telling you now for the last little bit that the eye wall of Hurricane Ian has been moving onshore in southwest Florida. This is live video coming in on one of our feeds that does show Sanibel Island, Florida. That is where the storm is making landfall. As of the update just provided by the National Hurricane Center within the last 30 minutes, this is a Category 4 storm with winds of 155 miles per hour moving north-northeast at 9 miles per hour. Again, this live video here coming from Sanibel Island. We know the storm is about 2 miles per hour shy of a Category 5 storm, the highest classification for a hurricane. The Hurricane Center saying there is catastrophic storm surge along with very destructive waves. Ian once again moving north-northeast at 9 miles per hour, located about 50 miles west-northwest of Naples, Florida. The hurricane-force winds do extend for a diameter of 40 miles, and tropical storm-force winds extend for a diameter of 175 miles. We are switching back and forth between our Fox 35 Orlando coverage and our Fox 13 Tampa coverage, as both teams on opposite sides of the state do have extensive coverage with reporters all over the Sunshine State. We are going to head right now over to Fox 13 Tampa as they are taking a look at the full forecast and what we can expect as Ian does make landfall.
When we get up in the sky, probably not tomorrow, but probably Friday morning, we start looking at some of the visuals, the aerials, looking down at some of these subdivisions and these neighborhoods, Punta Gorda, Northport, all those towns south towards Charlotte Harbor, and our friends down in Fort Myers. There's going to be some subdivisions that will be inundated by water. We'll have significant storm surge flooding, and probably what we're going to see for the next couple of months going into Christmas holidays is a lot of blue tarps on the roofs in areas where the strongest winds occur. 108-mile-an-hour potential. Sarasota, and in St. Pete. St. Pete's going to be especially windy downtown. Jim showed you that 62-mile-an-hour wind gust in downtown St. Pete. It's windy all the time because the bay is open to the northeast. So many times, we'll show wind speeds on a typical afternoon with an east wind, and we'll have 7, 10, 12. Then we'll show downtown St. Pete, and it's 32 or 22. The wind really howls downtown because of that open bay to the east. So that's why the 92 shows up in St. Pete, and it's probably not impossible for that to happen. So we'll be looking for that later on today and tonight. And then the storm continues to move inland and then starts heading for the east coast. Here's when the winds begin to turn by tomorrow morning, with some of the water will probably start piling up on our west coast. But generally speaking, the physics of it, when storms are moving away from us, even when the winds go by, the water levels do not get as high as they would from an approaching storm from the Gulf of Mexico. So there could be some additional high water, even Tampa Bay north on the backside. And then finally by Friday, we're pretty much done. Some impacts, obviously gust 120, probably not in Hillsborough and Pinellas, but certainly down in southern Sarasota County and also in Charlotte and Lee counties. There'll be wind gust 110, 120, at least 12 to 18 on the rain. Storm surge will be south of Tampa Bay and primarily along and to the right or to the south of where the storm makes landfall. We're not forgetting about you in Citrus, Pasco, Hernando. It's going to be a rainy, windy day. There may be an isolated tornado, but you may be too far north for that. It's going to be rain and wind, and I think your hope up here is to avoid losing power and avoid any type of tree damage. You always get your car. It has to be out of the way. You don't want to look around and go, that tree could fall on my car. That branch could just get your car in a safe spot. Hope you cleared up the branches near the house, but mainly it's going to be gusty winds, heavy rain, certainly wind gusts up to 40 to 60 mile an hour, not impossible. Then later today, stay with us because we're going to end up watching the eye just roll across the state, kind of in the same track as Charlie, but probably with more widespread impacts. So stick with us in Polk County, in Hardy, DeSoto, and Highlands, because we'll do a lot of nowcasting, and we will show you some specific impacts and wind speeds. But it's going to be a rough couple of, maybe not a couple of hours. This is a long event, through this afternoon into tonight and then improving tomorrow. So we got a ways to go on this one with the storm still basically on our coastline. Rainfall the next 3 days, about as high as it gets. I mean, the scale is 20 inches, so between 10 and 20, maybe some higher amounts. So we are done with that. And I'm going to be with you all afternoon. Jim and Dave did a great job this morning. Tyler will be in this afternoon.
Good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are streaming us from. Welcome to Live Now from Fox as our continuous coverage of Hurricane Ian does continue. I do want to take you over to our Fox 35 Orlando team. They are giving a breakdown of the storm itself and what we can expect over the next several hours.
And rainfall there at 10 to 20 inches could be on the plus side in some of the locations, especially toward the I-4 corridor with Brevard County hurricane warning as well tonight to Friday morning. Your winds there steady at 40 to 50 miles per hour, especially in the coastal areas. A lot of people don't realize there's less friction over the Atlantic, so that allows winds to come up even higher right along the barrier islands. Gusts there to 75 and rainfall tallies in that range of 4 to 8 inches. We may see a little bit higher over North Brevard, closer to the northern Indian River, maybe out toward Merritt Island through Titusville and Mims, and then back out as you move into eastern Orange and portions of Osceola County down across the south side of Brevard. And lastly, you want to take a look at what's happening up in Orange County as we've been keeping close tabs on that. This track goes right over Orange County, according to NHC currently. Winds there at 55 to 70 and gusts possibly upwards of almost 100 miles per hour, 10 to 20 inches of accumulated rainfall. Allison's tracking that rainfall now. Fox 35 Storm Tracker Radar. She joins me live here in the storm.
A beach here. Earlier we saw people walking. We're going to show you some video from just a little while ago. We had people just kind of strolling around, walking on the bay shore. There were people out over the balustrade here, walking on Hillsborough Bay as that wind from the northeast was blowing to the southwest and pushing that water out of the bay. People were coming out and seeing it here in the bay. Talked to some of it. Here's what they had to say.
I am FaceTiming my nephew. He's in Lakeland, Florida, and whenever he comes to stay with me, we bring him out to Bayshore, so I wanted to show him that all the water got sucked out. So this has happened one other time, but I couldn't kind of tell you how much this storm surge is going to happen, so it's just really cool to see. Last time there was, what was it, Irma? Last hurricane, and there wasn't even any water here, so it's not as bad, but yeah, it's really cool to see.
Yeah, and video here from about an hour ago. Again, you know, people were out here walking their dogs. They were running on the bay shore, taking a stroll, but then come back out live here to the live picture that we see now, and you can see how things have changed here. This is characteristic of a hurricane like this, and I think this is what we're going to feel for a while as that counterclockwise rotation with those bands. We're going to get in a head, going to clear for a while, and then the same thing's going to happen again. As you take a 360 around here, you see some of the buildings here along the bay shore. This is in a mandatory evacuation zone, so people should be evacuated. We don't see that much traffic, although we did see people here a little while ago. This is what you have to be concerned about. If you think you're going to come out here and have a stroll, well, when these bands come in like we have now, you're seeing this hard wind from the northeast blowing to the southwest, blowing this water out of the bay, but also making it hard to be out here to drive or to walk. So if you're thinking about coming out here, think again, because it's not going to stay that way for long. We're going to have bands rotating around, and we're going to have bad weather, intervals of bad weather here. But that's the view here from the bay shore in Tampa. We're ahead and send it back to you.
All right, Lloyd. I think that the good point you're making, a lot can change in a short amount of time, so best to just be safe. Thank you. Hillsborough County Public Schools just announced its schools will remain closed Friday. More than 60 of the district's sites have been utilized as storm shelters for evacuees and first responders. The district's rapid response teams will assess each school site for potential damage.
If you are just joining us here on Live Now from Fox, you are watching Fox 13 Tampa's coverage of Hurricane Ian as the storm does make landfall there in southwest Florida. As of the last advisory about 38 minutes ago, it is a Category 4 with winds of 155 miles per hour moving north-northeast at 9 miles per hour. I do want to bring you to our Fox 35 Tampa team coverage right now so you can see their reporters who are out in the field braving this weather and bringing the latest information.
In Central Florida, as we know, is probably going to get a lot worse.
Yes, unfortunately. Fox 35's Matt Trezza is in the Orlo Vista neighborhood, which is in Orange County. And as we know, that neighborhood severely flooded during Irma just 5 years ago, Matt.
Yeah, 2017, it was not a great time for the Orlo Vista neighborhood. Apologies. And here's a reason why. You can see how low-lying it is. This is a retention pond behind me. Just to give you a sense of where we're at, that road back there with all the traffic on it is 408. And so the people living around here, they've got this low-lying water that is right near them. And you can see they're all bracing for possible floodwaters. There's sandbags up against the garage door over there. There's houses that have been boarding up and putting out the sandbags as well. People here say they've learned the lesson of that time. Remember, back in 2017, the National Guard had to be called out to rescue people from this community when the floodwaters rose. So the people here are not taking really any chances when it comes to their safety. And we talked with some of the folks who are getting ready out here. They say that even during a light rain, it can be flooding in this area. So they are really preparing for the worst when it comes to Hurricane Ian.
The flooding problem, just a couple days ago, it was just raining. It was raining, and we was going out, and it was a flood down the street and stuff like that. And it wasn't even raining that hard, but it was flooding. So this is a flood zone. There's a lake back there or whatever. It is a flood zone, so.
Orange County said they had a plan in order to correct this and alleviate some of the flooding here. It was a multi-million-dollar plan. They said it would take about 5 years to put it in place, and it involved digging the retention ponds down deeper and putting the pumps lower in the area. So they started working sooner. But it remains to be seen with Hurricane Ian whether or not any of that will make a difference when it comes to the Orlo Vista neighborhood. We're live in Orange County. Matt Trezza, Fox 35 News.
Matt, thank you.
It's so hard to forget all those images
it
of those
really
trucks.
Is. Yeah, all those people having to get pulled out of those neighborhoods. Fox 35's Vicki Carr has live team coverage continuing now. She is in downtown Daytona Beach.
Yeah, Vicki posted a picture of the surf before. Let's check in right now. I know, Vicki, it's starting to pick up there in Volusia County.
Yeah, Ryan and Amy, and just like Matt was talking in the area that he is, people in Volusia County, this is one of the areas that is very prone to flooding. So a lot of the business owners here are very nervous for Hurricane Ian. So I want to show you some of the places here already boarded up. We've seen business owners coming and going, doing their last minute preparations. I talked to one of the businesses here and they were saying that they wish they would have done this a lot sooner, but they better be safe than sorry. They told me that one of the problems that they had was during Hurricane Matthew, when this entire area looked like a river. And a big concern of that is because the Halifax River is right here. You can see it from where we are. So they have been very nervous about this, making their last preparations. Take a listen to what one business owner said about what her biggest fear is.
That's the biggest fear, that uncertainty, that you don't know what's going to happen. So you just have to prepare for as much as you can.
So we're very close to the ocean from here. We're right next to the Halifax River. Then we got the ocean. So we went over there before this live shot to check out what the water looks like. It's very windy. It's starting to pick up. It's been sprinkling on and off, but right now it is starting to pick up. And I did check in with beach safety. They tell me that, of course, the beach is closed, but also they brought in all of the equipment. So things like the towers, as they're anticipating all of the wind. For now, I'm live in downtown Daytona. Vicky Carr, Fox 35 News.
Vicki, thanks. Let's go to Brevard County. They've been on the other side of this so many times where it comes to landfall, but look at these images.
Yeah, Alina Shirazi is actually out right near the pier in Cocoa Beach, and Alina, it looks awful out there.
It just got pretty bad. I mean, it feels like every 5 minutes conditions are changing out here in Brevard County. We're at the Cocoa Beach Pier. You can actually take a look behind me and see the sky is almost like a uniform gray color, and you can see Ian swells really picking up a lot of this tide. Officials are warning of high tide in this area. Lifeguards have left at about noon. There are no lifeguards here. Beach services have ended, but if you walk a little bit more this way, you can take a look. There are still some stragglers out here on the beach. About 2 minutes before you came out to us, people were out here. Even one person with a picnic basket. Someone was surfing, but ever since the rain started coming down this hard, people have started to leave the beach, and that's what officials want people to do. They want them to be safe. Through Friday, we know that we're going to get anywhere between 5 to 10 inches of that rainwater, and this county has had a lot of flooding problems in the past. But again, a lot of people saying 2017 they were there for Hurricane Irma. They know how bad things can get. They can take it seriously this time around. So we're going to send it back to you guys. But again, things changing minute by minute. We're really getting slapped by some of these wind gusts and some of these rainy conditions coming down right now here in Brevard County at Cocoa Beach.
Alina, thank you. We were a little shocked to see a surfer walking around behind you.
Right.
So, yeah, the surfers aren't too scared to get out there still. Orlando International Airport has temporarily shut down because of Ian. Commercial flights stopped going in or out at 10:30 this morning. This is video from before that happened. Officials with the airport say it's important to save that space for emergency use.
It's also here in conjunction with our state and federal partners, as Tom mentioned, for emergency relief, military mobilization, and so on. Because we have that size, it can bring in those large aircraft.
And our own Marlisa Goldsmith was actually in the airport just a short time ago, and she posted video. It is completely empty now. The airport says it could take days to restore service. Officials say if you have a flight that was disrupted, you should contact your airline.
Such a rare scene. Even at 2 in the morning, you see people milling around.
It's shocking to see Marlisa's video. The Orlando Sanford International Airport is also closed. The final flight left at 4 o'clock yesterday. No word on when the airport will reopen. So if you do have a flight scheduled in or out of Sanford, again, call your airline.
Let's go to Daytona, where the Daytona Beach International Airport, they're closed at 12:35 this afternoon. All commercial flights, they are canceled until conditions are safe. Their officials reminding people the airport is not designated to be a shelter. Same thing OIA will saying they will direct you somewhere else. And staying at Volusia County, officials there are saying all public transportation, that's going to stop running and is expected to resume on Friday, really depending on the weather conditions.
Yeah, we will, of course, keep you posted about all of this. We are going to be working through every hour of Hurricane Ian to to make sure that you get all of this vital information as quickly as possible. We are covering all the angles. The Fox 35 Storm Team app is where you can track the storm on live radar. Should your power go out, you're going to want to make sure that your phone is fully charged. That's where you'll get all of the weather warnings. And if you ever do lose power, again, you can also watch us on that news app. So make sure that you have all of that with you. We will be here no matter what. So
Absolutely.
24/7, we're not going to leave you. And stay with Fox 35. We continue our coverage on Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, we're going to get another update from the storm team as well. As you can see the storm covering the entire state, which is why Cocoa Beach is getting what they're getting as well. This is a live look from Charlotte County. They declared an emergency where officials can't even go out. Quite a while ago, over an hour ago, they are getting a ton of rain there on the Gulf Coast. Stay with us.
If you are just joining us on Live Now from Fox, it is 12:46 on the East Coast and 9:46 over on the West Coast. What you're looking at now is our live radar image of Hurricane Ian. We have been tracking this storm for several days, and we are on all throughout the day today and overnight to bring you the latest information as we do learn more here from the National Hurricane Center. I do want to go over some of the basics before we send it out back to either our Fox 13 Tampa team or our Fox 35 Orlando team. So we do know that the eye wall of Hurricane Ian moved onshore in Sanibel Island, Florida. That is the Fort Myers area in the southwestern part of the state. In the image, you can see the eye wall as it does move onto land. The National Hurricane Center providing an update at noon, so almost an hour ago, saying the storm is a Category 4 with maximum wind speeds of 155 miles per hour, and that is just 2 miles per hour shy of a Category 5 storm, which is the highest classification for a hurricane. The Hurricane Center is saying there is catastrophic storm surge along with very destructive waves. Ian moving north-northeast at 9 miles per hour and is located about 50 miles west-northwest of Naples, Florida. We do have a shot that is coming in from very close to the Sarasota area. I want to pull up that full if we can here, just so you can get a look at this image. As you can see, the rain is heavy rain. It is falling fast there, and the winds are really picking up. Again, Hurricane Ian now moving onshore over in southwest Florida with wind speeds of 155 miles per hour. We are switching between our Fox 13 Tampa team and our Fox 35 team in Orlando, as well as our other team in Tampa. I do want to send it over to our Tampa team as they are in their full forecast right now, providing the latest information on the path of this very large storm.
At this point, and it will be absolutely significant. And then it carries it on shore well inland. You're over in the Hardee County when you're still talking about a major hurricane by tonight with 120 mile an hour winds, and then makes its way all the way over towards Orlando. You're still talking about a strong tropical storm or hurricane, and then working its way all the way out over, pushing off the East Coast, and it's going to cause issues over there as well as far as the winds and the wraparound from this causing some issues along the coastline there. So this is, we've been talking about this. It may not be slowing down as much as what we initially were thinking maybe a couple of days ago, but it's a long duration with this.
Yeah, what time is it now? It's 12:48, and then you look at the point on Thursday at 8 a.m. And, that's not very far. So you think about all of, a little less than 24 hours. So it's 20 hours. It's made it from where it is now to near Orlando. And that's going to be 20 hours of having a tough time.
Yeah, if we were in a car driving, we could do this in a few hours, and this is taking over a day to get there. So we'll talk more about this, much more in just a little bit, guys.
We're going to head now to the Sarasota EOC for an update.
Sustained 45-mile-an-hour winds. When sustained 45-mile-an-hour winds, it's no longer safe for our emergency vehicles to be on the road, so it's no longer safe for our citizens to be on the road. Now is the time for you to shelter in place. I'll go ahead and take some questions.
We know that there are so many personnel in the building right now still actively trying to help residents, even though the roads aren't safe to drive across. Can you just talk to us about what's happening in this building? What resources are there if people are stuck or in a jam because of the storm?
So I'm sure you probably have seen our sheriff. They are responsible for our public emergency communications center that's located at the top of our emergency operations center. They put out some great information. I would advise our community to follow them on social media. They talked about the resources they have available if individuals are calling into 911. We also can take in calls to our 311 center that's also located at the top of our emergency operations center. We can provide additional information about what does shelter in place mean, right? So sheltering in place means that you want to find the most center location in your home. You want to put as many walls between you and the exterior of your home. We're working the best we're getting calls, we're getting things through social media from people outside of the county asking for us if we could check on their residents. At this time, we're doing the best that we can, as we are getting some reports that cell phone service is being interrupted, as well as power.
From the last update you gave us just a couple of hours ago, I mean, your numbers doubled in the shelter. So what does that continue to tell you about people who are heating and warming?
We have a very smart community, They understand the importance of heeding the evacuation notices. I'd like to thank our media partners for sharing this information. Not only are our county staff members who are working here at our Emergency Operations Center, our local government partners, our state partners, the National Weather Service taking it seriously, but our community is taking it seriously. And I think those numbers going on the rise for our evacuation summer demonstrates that.
What would happen if someone shows up to a shelter front doors after they're locked down?
We're going to do our best to accommodate everyone we can, but we also have to think about the safety of the individuals. For our partners who are our media partners, you guys are out here with us at the Emergency Operations Center. You know what it's like to open the door on the outside. There's definitely an impact to individuals who are on the inside. So take that into consideration at the evacuation centers. We'll do our best to accommodate our community members. We want everybody to be safe.
It's James Hill with ABC7. Can you talk a little bit about wind damage and also the storm surge and the problems that can present?
So obviously we're looking at, incoming damage reports. I don't have any exact details to give you. I'll continue to work with you to have those reports go out. Wind damage, you're looking at, debris, obviously that's being an issue. Power lines is a big issue right now. We're asking individuals to stay inside. If you see power lines go down, do not approach them, what have you. Obviously, we're also looking at storm surge. We're a coastal community, right? And that's really important for the coast, but also you have to think about our communities that are near our rivers, all right? So as the rain continues, you're going to see a rise in all of the water areas. Question?
If people are sheltering in place, at this point there's nowhere to safely go. What does the timeline look like today? And of course that's a moving goalpost, but what can you tell residents if they are sheltering in place about what the rest of today and tonight might look like for them?
So for our residents, our community members that are sheltering in place, again, I'd like to remind you to please go to the most center of the building that you're in, put as many walls between you and the exterior. And this is going to be a long time. We're going to have a long day and we're going to have a long night. So rest when you can. Pace yourself, try to stay calm. If you still have electricity, now is the time. Please charge your phone, charge your laptops, charge your iPads, anything you have that can help to give you communication externally if you were to lose power. We ask for you to hunker down, stay safe. It's going to be one for us. All of us, we're in this together.
Jamie, can you bring us into the command center again? What kind of decisions are being made in there right now? What factors are being weighed?
So we have, as I mentioned before, this is something that we do. All right, we want to just let the community know that the Sarasota County government prepares for situations like this throughout the year. So our command center is focused on balancing two things, right? So we're focused on balancing the now, what we're in the moment, the conditions that we're experiencing, as well as already starting to make those preparations for after the storm. We're already thinking about operations. How can we set up rally points for us to set up points of distribution? All right, obviously we're having to monitor the entire areas because points of distribution could vary depending on the impact to the community. Another thing we're looking at is we know it's really important for government operations and for our community for things to reopen. It's still too early to tell, but we're always looking at the numbers, looking at the facts, and taking those things into consideration.
What would you have to say for folks who are maybe looking at this and, their anxiety levels are high, their stress levels are high, especially if they have not been able to evacuate for whatever reason?
All right, so for my media partners, this might Just bear with me. I would highly advise that you stay tuned to media outlets, but also take a moment to step away mentally. All right, we're going to be in this for a while. We're going to be in this situation for a while. Taking care of yourself so you can best take care of those around you. Comfort items are extremely important. This is going to be an experience for everyone. I would say while you still have cell service, while you still have phone service, call your friends, call your families, and again, always check on your neighbors. We're in this together. We're in this together.
And then conversely, what do you say to people who are not heeding these warnings, might still be out there in the storm right now?
We have a very smart community. So I would say for those individuals that have not yet heeded those warnings, that you need to make provisions. You need to shelter in place. You need to stay safe. You need to take the appropriate action. When we send out these alerts, take them seriously. This is a matter of life or death. Hurricane Ian is nothing to laugh at. All right, so it's important for everyone to follow the notifications, take it very seriously, and to start those processes to shelter in place. I'll take 2 more questions.
What is the current estimation on how long these 45+ mile an hour winds are going to last?
It depends. As you guys are watching the weather reports, just like we are, we're getting reports in from the National Weather Service. Ian is a slow-moving storm, so it's a storm. So we're monitoring the weather and the time frame for how long it's going to pass. It's going to be a while.
And you mentioned sending out an alert about State Road 681. Can you elaborate on what you meant by that?
So we're seeing the sustained winds right now, and that we just put out for the iPods that you guys got, that emergency notification. 681, that notification is getting ready to go out. What we're looking at is a wave of the sustained 45 mile an hour winds. Our Sarasota County emergency operations are dedicated to helping our community members as long as they can, while still remaining safe themselves. So why we're putting out multiple alerts is because that wave of the winds, that sustainment, is moving northward through the county. We want to make sure that our community members know that as long as we can, we're there to support them. So you're going to get multiple reports that says we can no longer go from this point. We can no longer go from this point. Because our team members, as long as they can go out there and help our community, they will. Annie, yes.
How does it work if there's an alert issued in the middle of a call? If someone's out there almost at a place, would they continue or would they go back?
They'll do the best they can to complete the calls that they're on and then go back. All right, last question.
As far as pets are concerned, they are welcome at shelters?
All of our evacuation centers are pet friendly, and let me look at, I think I just got a recent report. We have about 560 pets across our evacuation centers. All right.
Florida Highway Patrol would like to remind people just stay off the interstate, please. They can't respond to traffic accidents.
All right. So from our partners, we're being asked to share with you and for you to share with your viewers to stay off the interstate. Now is not the time to go driving around anywhere. You've heard it from here. You've heard it from our media partners. Shelter in place. All right. Any other questions?
All right. You've been listening to the Sarasota EOC deliver.
And thank you to everyone who's been watching here with us on Live Now from Fox. So we continue to keep track of this storm, especially as it is now making landfall. Soon we will have Governor Ron DeSantis. Just want to pop up that shot here for all of our viewers. Ron DeSantis is going to be speaking, giving us an update, especially as it is now landing upon the area just south of Tampa. So Ian still tracking and moving slowly into the Tampa Bay area. It is at a Category 4, and Governor Ron DeSantis is going to be giving us an update here. Live Now from Fox will be here in just a few moments. Good morning again. Thank you so much for being here with us on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate all of our viewers watching here, especially as we continue to track Hurricane Ian. Hurricane Ian, extremely dangerous eye wall. It is moving onshore. It is going to be causing catastrophic storm surge, winds, and flooding in the Florida Peninsula soon. And the eye of the hurricane, well, it is moving towards this area here just a little bit south of Tampa Bay. It's moving about 9 miles per hour, and this general mode continue to
make its way into Florida here today. Now, on the forecast track, the center of Ian expected to move onshore here over these next few minutes and more over central Florida later tonight into Thursday morning and emerge over the western Atlantic by late Thursday. Ian is forecast to turn northward then on Friday and approach the northwestern Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina coasts a little bit late on Friday. Now, these maximum winds are sustaining near 155 miles per hour with higher gusts. Ian is right now a Category 4 hurricane. And Ian expected here to continue to bring not only those high winds, but a lot of rain that's coming along with it. Let's go ahead and take a couple different live looks here at this storm as we continue to track it. Some live pictures here showing us just some of the effects from the hurricane as it continues to land here. This is in Fort Myers, Florida right now. We do have our crews keeping a close eye on all the latest radars and the track of this storm. You can see, though, already here, not only do we have those white caps on the ocean, but you have that wind that is coming in and flooding already happening in multiple areas all across the state of Florida. Rain starting to fall all around the Florida Peninsula as well as we continue to keep our eyes on the very latest. Now, as Hurricane Ian is making landfall here, it is getting near that Category 5 strength. We do want to make sure we continue to give you our live coverage here with our Fox teams who have been keeping us up to date on the very latest with its tracks. So thank you again to everyone who's been watching here with us. Christy Larson here at the desk with you, but we're going to jump into a lot of coverage with our two Fox teams, Fox 35 in Orlando, also Fox 13 in Tampa Bay, as they have their reporters out there keeping us in coverage of what they are seeing happen over the state. I do want to let everyone know they're, of course, also keeping their safety in mind. So if there's ever anything that seems dangerous, they're going to pull those reporters off the roads. They're going to pull them out of those locations that are getting to be a little too extreme. And then I also want to remind our viewers, we are waiting for Ron DeSantis. So while we wait for the governor, let's go ahead and get some of the latest forecasts with our Fox weather teams as we head into our Fox 13 coverage right here for you. Well, actually, it looks like we do have some of our other officials walking in here with Governor DeSantis. Let's listen in live.
Well, this afternoon, Hurricane Ian is now making landfall in southwest Florida with winds of 155 miles per hour, and that is just shy of a Category 5 hurricane. 155-mile-an-hour winds are incredibly dangerous. There will be debris in the air and flooding powerful enough to move cars around. So please do not be outside during this storm. If you're in those southwest Florida counties, you need to be sheltering in place. Don't forget that Ian will produce hurricane-strength winds and massive floodings, not just where it makes the initial landfall, but throughout the state of Florida. So central and northeast Florida will also feel impacts. Now, while most people in the evacuations did leave, there were some that chose to stay. I was speaking with the sheriff down in Charlotte County, and while most people did leave, they had a small number of people that just wanted to hunker down. And at the end of the day, that's a decision they made, knowing that they had the ability to evacuate and knowing what the stakes were. Nevertheless, life safety operations will commence as soon as it's safe, to be able to identify people who may be in harm's way and who are in need of assistance. And Kevin will say, I'll say a little bit about that, but Kevin will say more. We'll also hear from FWC about their efforts that they have staged and ready to go. If you are still in Southwest Florida, just please stay inside until the storm passes. It may appear to be calm at some point. You may just be in the eye of the storm, and the backside of that will get very, very nasty. The storm is expected to move across central Florida and exit Daytona Beach sometime on Thursday. We've already seen around the state tornado warnings issued far from where the hurricane is entering in southwest Florida, and those warnings will likely to continue until this finally leaves our state. So even if you're not in the direct path of the storm, you need to take all tornado warnings seriously, and you need to take appropriate precautions if that is happening in your area. The Florida Department of Transportation has just announced that Fort Drum, Canoe Creek, and Turkey Lake service plazas on Florida Turnpike are now closed. Obviously, they will try to get those open as soon as they can. We have 200,000 power outages reported throughout the state of Florida, but outside of Southwest Florida, crews are working to quickly restore power. Of course, 200,000 is a drop in the bucket for what's going to happen over the next 24 to 48 hours. There's going to be widespread power outages, particularly in Southwest Florida. We have over 100 portable cell towers ready to be deployed into the area once it is safe to enter. Once the storm is passed and it is safe to go outside, you still need to be cautious. Avoid down power lines, standing water, stay clear of downed trees, and don't drive in standing water. And please, if you're going to use a generator for your home, do not allow that to be inside. The exhaust needs to be outdoors. Stay out of the way of emergency crews, out of flood waters, and away from all down power lines. Stay off the roads. There's no need to rush back. You're going to have a massive surge of people that are going to be going in to provide, of course, life safety assistance for those who may have stayed in some of the more hazardous areas. You're also going to have power workers going in. We were just in Lake City. I was thinking we had all these power workers, these line workers from all these different states. I saw them from Texas, Louisiana, all these different places stage. We have a massive, massive mobilization. Their job is to get in there and help to restore services. You're also going to have folks bringing in things like food and water. So there's no need to rush back in. There's going to be a lot going on in the immediate aftermath, and a lot of people's safety depends on that. If you're on the roads, you're putting yourself in danger and limiting the ability of emergency crews to restore power and clean debris. Now, we don't know how much debris is going to be, but there's going to be debris, and that's going to make it very difficult to navigate some of these roads. That's why FDOT's immediate mission is to clear the roadways so that people are able to go in and access that to be able to help deliver services for people. In 2019, we were projected to be hit by Hurricane Dorian, which was a Category 5 storm. Fortunately, at the last minute, it took a northward turn and missed the coast, but we did have a really massive mobilization. This mobilization's exceeded that. This is a really, really significant effort, county level, state level, federal support. It's really been impressive to see. Director Guthrie has asked for additional airlift, hoists, and high water vehicles from DOD in coordination with FEMA. The Secretary of Defense has approved Florida's request for dual status of our National Guard forces under Title 10 to provide additional forces, which we very much appreciate. We will also be submitting momentarily a major disaster declaration for all 67 counties, and we'll request that the federal government reimburse 100% of the upfront costs for the first 60 days to ensure that we can quickly recover and move forward into the response and recovery part. And if you think about this storm, we had storms that have been as strong as this hit Florida? Michael, Hurricane Andrew, Labor Day hurricane many, many decades ago. Yes. Have we had big storms that left a lot of water and flooding? We had Irma recently. This is really bringing both to the table.